Tonight, a look at classic police camera action footage showing what happens when drivers forget the rules of the road. And I'll be improving my driving skills, first by taking lessons in this supercar, as well as being taught correct car control in these extreme conditions. And finally, we'll see the extraordinary results that can be achieved with intensive training, as demonstrated by rally champion Colin McRae. As you peel off the L plates and prepare to take off a newly qualified driver, you really think that you've made it. But you know, passing the test is just the beginning. As we've seen so often on police camera action, the moment some people get into their car, put the seatbelt on, start the engine up, it's as if the rule book's been torn up and thrown away alongside that L plate. But further driver training really is something that we could all benefit from. Now, having just passed his test, this young motorist's reckless driving shows just how quickly some people forget everything they've ever learned. This sort of inexperienced manoeuvre isn't something they teach at driving school. To improve your driving, there are several skills you have to learn. The right attitude is crucial. The Dutch motorcyclist puts his life on the line as he plays chicken with the speeding express. Attention is also fundamental to good driving. Thinking their green light gives them safe passage across the junction, the waiting vehicles move forward. Proper observation is also vital. Watch the bottom right of the screen as 3 cars on a German autobahn learn the hard way. Concentration is another key skill to learn. As is anticipation. In this classic clip, swerving to avoid traffic from the slip road, the lorry's trailer coupling brakes. Thanks to quick reactions of other drivers, no one was hurt. Drinking can affect all of these safe driving skills, as these Finnish teenagers find out. And this motorcyclist learns the dangers of failing to stop for the police. Fortunately, the accident looks much worse than it is. But if you thought he was lucky to survive, watch this American criminal riding his luck, tracked by a helicopter news journalist in Los Angeles, who is simultaneously broadcasting the pursuit on live TV.
Squeezing between a truck, almost got wiped out by a truck. You know, there's dangerous passing on the right side of a big rig. This guy did it. Yes. Okay, this motorcycle has hit speeds in excess of 120 miles an hour. He's wanted for assault with a deadly weapon. Obviously, he doesn't care about his own life. The problem is that the general public is out here and they can die. This guy has nearly lost his life 3 separate occasions, busting through intersections, through stop signs, with no regard for his own life, doing over 120 miles an hour. There he goes. There he goes. Down, suspect down, suspect down. Well, look, that's what I said would happen. He's moving, he's still...
Incredibly, he survives the crash. All drivers should try to keep risks to a minimum, but the most common risk drivers take is speeding. In the hands of a trained expert and on a closed circuit, this car will accelerate from 0 to 60 in less than 6 seconds and reach a top speed of 170 miles an hour. But out on the public roads, excessive speed's not only illegal, it's also highly dangerous. And yet, despite overwhelming statistical evidence that speed kills, many drivers choose to ignore that lesson and travel far too fast. Police forces right across the world come down heavily on speed offenders. In Holland, police handed down a heavy fine to this motorist when they clocked him travelling at 125 miles an hour. Good driving requires you to drive at a speed that is safe for the conditions. The spray of water from the Mercedes rear tyre means that the road is wet and slippery, which makes his driving even more dangerous. The driver was stopped and received a heavy fine. Police officers were alerted to this Sierra Cosworth after it aggressively undertook an unmarked police camera car on the approach to the M11 in Essex. Some drivers become so wrapped up in catching the vehicle ahead, or even chasing another driver, that they no longer are capable of assessing the risks they're taking and suffer what's known as the red mist. As the Sierra begins to gather speed, the officers realise that he's racing a Mercedes sports car, seen here in the outside lane. At over 100 miles an hour, the police car tries to overtake the Sierra to catch the Mercedes, but the driver blocks his way, unaware that his every move is being recorded on camera.
Oscar, Juliet 1-1 active.
Undaunted, the Sierra accelerates away in one last bid to catch the Mercedes ahead.
Pull it away from me at Tom Plus. It's a blue Cosworth Sierra and a Mercedes Sports, dark blue or black. Number of which you can't read, it's too far. Yeah, the Cosworth Sierra is now behind me. I've gone on after the Merc, and the Cosworth is going to chase me.
As the police go after the Mercedes, the Sierra makes a final attempt to outrun them both.
Yeah, the Cosworth have passed me now, and I'm jumped.
By now, the police have seen enough. Both the driver of the Sierra and of the Mercedes, seen here in the middle lane, were convicted for speeding and dangerous driving. These two Dutch drivers are not simply interested in outrunning each other, but causing the other to have an accident. They can clearly be seen overtaking and immediately braking in a potentially lethal game of cat and mouse. The police, having recorded enough evidence for a conviction, pull the driver of the people carrier over. He was fined and banned from driving. Extreme forms of aggressive driving are regularly witnessed by police across Britain. The Dyfed Powys Police Air Support Unit were monitoring the radio and heard that a blue Vauxhall Astra had made off from a garage without paying for petrol. The unit scrambled and quickly located the car, which turned out to be stolen. From the air, they were able to advise South Wales Police ground forces. Their escape route blocked by a long traffic queue, the criminals smashed their way through. A patrol car attempts to shut off the Astra's escape route, but is rammed. One passenger is immediately seized, while the other two men try to get away across a bridge. With the police blocking both ends of the bridge, the criminals are left with nowhere to go and are arrested. All three offenders were jailed and banned from driving for 3 years. The driver had his prison sentence doubled for his driving offences and for causing actual bodily harm to the sergeant in the police car. To prevent criminals becoming lethal threats to the public, many police forces use the Stinger tyre deflation device to end high-speed pursuits. Stinger's effectiveness is highlighted in this footage from Thames Valley Air Support Unit. The police force the stolen car to drive across the Stinger, which in thermal imaging appears as a flash of white across the road. The criminal's car quickly grinds to a halt as the punctured tyres bring a safe and swift end to the pursuit. Here, Finnish police deploy Stinger to stop a car driven by a murder suspect who's on the run. With the tyres punctured, the shower of sparks comes from driving on the wheel rims. Finally, the police block the suspect in. He was later charged with 25 offences and sent to prison for life.
We're in the right position on the road.
In parallel with courses run by the Institute of Advanced Motorists and the Royal Society for the Prevention of Accidents, Porsche offers customers the chance to develop their skills in one-to-one training on a closed track. This advanced driver tuition is based upon the same method of car control that's used in police driving schools. It's a safe and systematic way of avoiding hazards and is based on 4 simple principles. For example, when overtaking, first assess the road and traffic conditions as well as the approaching hazard, here, the car ahead. Second, position the car where you're able to see well ahead. Select the right gear and adjust your speed. Finally, not forgetting your mirrors and indicators, smoothly accelerate past. Overtaking is one manoeuvre that drivers often get spectacularly wrong, as this footage caught on camera in Hampshire shows. Reading up on the highway code would have saved these van drivers heavy fines. See how close the overtaking van comes to the roadworks. Highway Code Rule 106, Section A. Drivers must not overtake if they have to cross unbroken white lines in the middle of the road.
Gosh, that was close, wasn't it?
Rule 106, Section B. Do not overtake where you might come into conflict with other road users, like a blind left-handed bend. Or where you'd force another vehicle or 2 to swerve. A mind-boggling overtaking manoeuvre like this isn't something the Highway Code covers, probably because they never imagined anyone would be so stupid. This Polish lorry is on a suicide mission, barrelling down the centre of the road. And this example of reckless overtaking was witnessed by officers from Lancashire Police, while pursuing armed robbers who had, 45 minutes earlier, held up a security van at Tesco's in Preston. Constantly updating armed response vehicles who were also in pursuit, the police helicopter was capturing every moment on camera. As one thief bails out, the other desperately tries to stop the car from careering into a stream and is arrested. The driver makes off into a nearby housing estate.
One offender into Ashford Road, BD, Ashford Road. White male, yellow top, blue jeans.
Two suspects having left the vehicle, one into a housing estate wearing a yellow top and blue jeans, Roger.
He's in the bungalow, BD. White male going over a fence, blue jeans, yellow top. We need a Delta Zulu. Delta Zulu, I've lost visual with him. He's in a house.
As the robber disappears behind a wall, the helicopter switches on its thermal imaging camera to locate any telltale heat sources.
SPD is a white male, dark fur, blue jeans and a yellow top. Last seen in the bungalow, the dormer bungalow at the rear. On the drive, there's a vehicle, a white hatchback on the drive.
The robber was found hiding in a dustbin and was quickly taken into custody. Both men pleaded guilty to the charges and are currently serving 10-year sentences for armed robbery. Coming up in part 2, we see just how important correct car control is and how American police keep this armed robber from becoming a lethal threat to the public.
Murder? Well, thank goodness for that.
John Nettles investigates the Midsummer Murders. Wednesday at 8 on ITV.
Yeah, my father always used to say to me, Justin, 3 rules. Hit 'em hard, leave an impression, don't kowtow to the men in grey. The watch, the tie, the cuff. Everything about you has to say, I'm different to the other guy. I'm parked over there. Nice to meet you. Ciao! Be lucky! Can I give you a lift? It's in here somewhere. Somewhere.
Vorsprung durch Technik, as some people will never say.
There's a net with these new personal tablets. What does it do?
Well, it helps the tablets disperse properly
How?
by getting them everywhere around the wash.
So there's a real benefit to it then?
Well, they wouldn't give you one if there wasn't, would they?
Persil's new tablets. A great wash, a great deal easier.
You all right? Go away. All right. Yeah.
How would I most like to have a one-to-one? As clearly and perfectly as possible with a 19th century tracker called Manawa. I'd ask him how he learned to recognize every minute sound in the desert. And how could he hear horses approaching from so far away? If I had a one-to-one with Manawa, I'd want to know if he could tell that I was his great-great-grandson just by the sound of my voice.
EFR is the clearest digital sound quality you can get. From one-to-one, you'll really hear the difference.
Oh, hello. Come for a spin with me and discover how will you eat yours. 1.
If you're watching in black and white, eat the yellow bit first.
2. Find the star and lick it off. 3. Eat it with the lights off. I've seen the future.
And it's egg shaved!
How will you eat yours?
Why wait when you can part exchange in only 7 days and move up to a stunning new Barrett home with lots of features? And for first-time buyers, there's a £99 down and move-in scheme. Call Barrett now on 0345 62 63 64.
An unusual request.
The stuff you can give me now to get me back in the saddle. I want some of that Niagara.
Peak Practice, 9 tonight on ITV.
On the track in front, notice there's a ditch coming up, so if we can just ease the lever back into first gear, that'll give us maximum engine braking slowly into the ditch. Just up into third gear. Good.
The 4x4s are a familiar sight out on the ordinary roads, but because of those special features like the slip differential and the live axle and a huge variety of gears to choose, driving and handling one of these vehicles properly really is totally different to an ordinary family car. And here at Eastnor Castle, Land Rover offer driving lessons in how to master those characteristics. There's bags of space, so if you do make a mistake, then you can recover quite safely. But as this footage from Helsinki shows, poor car control on a busy city street, now that really is dangerous. Effective observation is the foundation of good driving. Looking ahead would have given this driver more time to think and react to the pedestrians crossing the road. The driver was later fined, but what if it had been a child? Effective observation in this case allowed the pickup driver to react in time. And this motorist to take evasive action when the cyclist sails absent-mindedly across the road. In London, the cyclist is left shaking his head in disbelief by the brazen attitude of the Mercedes driver. When police are involved in high-speed pursuits, they try to keep the fugitives on main roads, away from residential areas.
The suspect were a two-man squad. We want to pull up behind them in a clear spot.
Here in Minnesota, an armed robber has become a lethal threat to both the public and the police when he starts to wave his gun out of the car window.
We have, I believe, the suspect vehicle smoking.
It's the ruined vehicle in the center here.
The street, according to the green signs out here, is going to be 61.
Take a while. Good.
In an effort to end the pursuit, the state trooper leans out of the window, gun in hand, to try and shoot out the fugitive's tires.
Crossing, coming, approaching 61. 61, his tire is out.
Undaunted, the robber returns fire. Anticipating the criminal will attempt to exit the freeway, the two patrol cars work in tandem to block his escape. The officers in the black car shunt him from behind, causing the criminal a momentary lapse of control. Before he's regained control, a white patrol car blocks him in. With the criminal still fighting the wheel, the black patrol car accelerates into the back of the robber's car, sending him off-road and ending a potentially lethal episode. Surprisingly, the skills involved in negotiating off-road hazards like these are the same as those you should use every day. The technique I'm being taught of correct position, speed and gear selection are relevant to every driver in every vehicle.
Through the braking system to keep the car...
Just as important on courses like this is the vehicle's ability to cope with the conditions. This course is also used by Land Rover to prepare drivers for the grueling Camel Trophy endurance competition, which takes place across the world. And whether you're cutting a path through the South American rainforests or hacking your way through the Burmese jungle, it's important to maintain the vehicle to the highest possible standards. But on normal roads, it's just as important that you and I keep our car or our motorbike to an equally high standard. Now, this next motorcyclist was initially stopped for his dangerously high speed, but on closer examination, it was the state of his tyres which landed him with a heavy fine. The biker has clearly not read the Danish highway code recently. He commits at least 5 driving offences. Number 1, driving 120 kilometres an hour in an 80 limit. Number 2, overtaking on a bend. Number 3, overtaking across chevrons. Number 4, not stopping when signalled to do so by the police. And offence number 5, riding a motorcycle in an unroadworthy condition. His rear tyre is badly split and bald, potentially lethal even at low speeds. Officers in London notice something odd about this blue Renault and pull it over for a closer inspection. They are appalled by what they discover.
Tango 841, I'm behind it now, Sherborne Crescent, back to Camp Heath Road.
Dorset police wanted a word with this moped rider when they saw his number plate hanging off. They soon discover the bike has been stolen. Trying desperately to avoid capture, the biker tries to lose his pursuers by going the wrong way round a roundabout. But with the police still on his tail, he pedals furiously in a vain attempt to get away.
Heading up Sherborne Crescent. It keeps going round the roundabout the wrong way over, heading up Camford Heath.
With the help of a police motorcyclist, he's pulled over. The rider was later charged with the theft of the moped and for an offence not in the highway code, carrying an offensive weapon, a horrifying combat knife. The speeding green car has come to the attention of the Danish police after they notice it doesn't have a rear window. Further checks reveal the car has just been used in a robbery, and the driver shattered the car's rear window in an earlier accident trying to escape. At over 50 miles an hour, the thief rear-ends another motorist, crushing his radiator. But despite the damage, he continues to cause havoc on the road. In an attempt to lose the police, the thief makes a series of late braking maneuvers. Eventually, he finds himself in a dead end with nowhere left to go. Exasperated, the thief dumps the car and tries to run, but is quickly arrested. The threat he posed to the public could have been much greater had the road conditions been wet or slippery. Completing this course successfully requires a very careful assessment of the track conditions. Now, innocent though they may look, these muddy leaves, slippery as ice, have caused many a driver to come unstuck. But when you're driving in really precarious conditions, heavy fog, across ice, or in pouring rain, then particular care has to be taken to guarantee that you complete your journey successfully. From Denmark, here's what happens if you don't. More than 80 cars were involved in this pile-up. The drivers learnt the hard way that in wet and foggy conditions you have to leave at least double the normal braking distance. At high speed, safe stopping distances also greatly increase. To reinforce the idea of safe braking, in Germany they have the safety cell. 2 horizontal white lines show drivers the minimum distance they should be from the car in front. These 4 drivers think they know better. but the puff of white smoke from the screeching tyres shows just how close they came. Here, another 4 drivers squeeze into the safety cell. The crane driver on the left has to swerve to prevent another accident. Watch the car behind the lorries, as incredibly he uses the hard shoulder to overtake. The driver had his license suspended for 2 months and was also fined. And this footage from Hampshire proves it's not just car drivers who are guilty of such aggressive and negligent driving. The coach driver callously risks the lives of his passengers and all the other road users as well. In America, Los Angeles police are in pursuit of a stolen milk truck. The milk's not the prize, the truck is. Due to the vehicle's size and load, there will be havoc on the freeway if the police don't get the situation under control quickly.
It's going to be very dangerous. Any cross traffic does not appear to be cross traffic. He's moved through that stop sign area. He's spinning a little bit fast, and as he moves forward, okay, highway patrolman, wait a minute, the rear end has now rolled over. The highway patrolmen are moving in. This looks like this pursuit will now terminate. A milk truck now stopped by the California Highway Patrol. They're racing with out of the vehicle, their guns drawn. They're now approaching this milk truck. The driver appears to be getting out of the driver's side door, moving out. California Highway Patrolmen now in position with their guns still drawn. They're reaching.
Concerned the suspect may be armed, the police take no chances as they move in to arrest him.
They're now taking the man into custody. The pursuit is what they call Code 4 in police jargon.
Somewhere on this estate you can experience pretty well every road and track condition imaginable. Thick mud and water, deep enough to swim through, can however be safely negotiated in one of these cars with a careful combination of positioning, gear selection, steering and speed control. But some drivers out on the highway think that uncontrolled speed is the answer to all their frustrations. But impatient drivers really should learn that they're not only jeopardizing their own lives, but also those of other road users. Take this woman who was late getting the kids to school. Overtaking a line of traffic at a level crossing with a car full of children landed the mother with a severe reprimand from the police. Impatience leads many drivers to take unnecessary risks. Here, the blue car attempts to overtake, but is blocked by a stationary car turning right. The driver holds up an entire lane of oncoming traffic. Police thought that this motorcyclist was trying to avoid the roadworks until they stopped him. As they pulled him over, they realize he's driving without a helmet and on an unlicensed motorcycle.
No. Hey, come here!
This Danish driver thought that to avoid the traffic jam, he'd use the footpath. A maneuver mirrored by an impatient van driver in Glasgow. All too easily, impatience at the wheel can lead to an aggressive attitude.
This is an offence notice for speeding, Mr. Buck. It's the only notice.
Stopped by an officer for speeding, this Canadian driver shows all the signs that the downward spiral is complete.
Fines $116.25.
Holy man, I even pulled over because I thought you were in a goddamn hurry and wanted to get around me. This is a fine line call and $116. What a joke. Jesus. What am I, Al Capone or something? Jesus. What bullshit? God, you got nothing better to do? Would you be mad? I pulled over so you could go around. I think, oh, geez, there's a car behind me. A little bit of a hurry. I pulled over. Holy You blame me for being angry about this?
You're free to carry on, sir.
You blame me for being angry about this? Would you be angry about this? Would you call this a fine line call?
I said you were speeding. That's all I've ever said.
Man, 116 bucks. Thank you very much.
Have a good night, sir.
Yeah.
In part 3, we witness the dangers of driving under the influence of drugs, find out what was going on in the back of this car, and I see how intensive training can turn you into a world beater with rally champion Colin McRae.
Four centimeters. Believe me, it can make a lot of difference. With 4 centimeters extra lateral suspension track, for example, you get superb handling and impeccable road manners. So you see, with suspension geometry, as with so much in life, size matters.
It's what you do with it that counts.
They'd sent me to drain the pool, but nobody warned me about the powerful suction around the outlet pipes. I had to stay in water while one of the guests finished her breakfast. Just my luck, it was Kellogg's Crunchy Nut Cornflakes. I knew she'd never resist a second bowl of that heavenly honeyed nuttiness drenched in ice-cold milk. Kellogg's Crunchy Nut Cornflakes. The trouble is they taste too good.
Please get me out!
Now, your local school could collect hundreds of free reading books. Just hand in the tokens from any Walker's pack.
But why do they have to be full packs, miss?
They just do.
Crisp?
Thank you for calling Star Garage Doors. Please call back during normal business hours. Bye-bye.
Give your customers the help they need whenever they need it with a self-service website by IBM.
All right.
Wow.
And that one's mine, that one's yours.
Why?
Well, I peeled all the potatoes, I chipped them, you know, fried them, and nearly burnt myself.
Fine.
It's all right, there's plenty there for you. That chip pan, it's scrubbed, you wouldn't know I'd used it.
What chip pan?
What chip?
Home fries from McCain. The oven chip that tastes as good as a fried chip. McCain. You just can't help yourself.
You go off players quicker than managers do. Just look at this lot.
He's French and he's worth millions.
Well, we're not.
No, we're Welsh.
You know what I mean, young lady. You're just wasting money. Make yourself useful. Do the shopping.
Softener and powder. Oh, don't need softener. I'll show her.
This has done a great job. Spend a fortune, did you?
No, separate softener, so it was over £1 less.
Well saved.
Rallying has got to be the ultimate driving test. And although this is pretty hairy stuff, I'm confident that Colin is in complete command of this vehicle. He uses a delicate balance of gears, steering, brakes and accelerator to weave us through these incredibly tight country lanes. It's a kind of driving that should never be attempted by the untrained. And yet, amazingly, some people do. Like this crazy customer being pursued by a police helicopter on the M4 in Wales. Not surprisingly, some of the worst driving on our roads is committed by criminals. They often end up learning the hard way, either in court or behind bars.
Approaching junction 48 now. Yeah, 209, he's gone off at the...
The white XR2 was first spotted by a police patrol as it careered along a section of the M4. They suspected the vehicle was stolen.
Yes, he's pushing past now onto the roundabout. And it's the first junction, the first towards Pontadour. Yes, first towards Pontadour, not second. Yeah, the first junction off. Yes, received. Overtaking on chevrons now, getting quite reckless, built up area, still maintaining his speed. He's on the wrong side of the carriageway, on the mini roundabout. Onto pink chevron marking central of the road. He's overtaking on the chevrons, approaching second mini roundabout. Coming to a set of traffic lights. Straight through the traffic lights. And it's a left, straight on at the traffic lights here. Tango Charlie 01, you're approaching traffic lights, it's straight on. Oscar, runway uses 33 right-hand circuit, is gliding on the left-hand circuit, no overhead joins. Wind 330. Keep going as hard as you can, and a right, a left, and immediate right, that is a stop.
1018,
Stop, driver out, passenger out.
Yeah, straight off.
3 in front, will stick with the driver.
Downwind join, Golf Fox Oscar.
Oscar, say again your point of departure.
In court, the judge commented on the utter recklessness of the driver before sentencing him to a long term in prison.
I think the second passenger was with the driver.
In America, the driver of this stolen car should consider himself lucky to have even made it to court to face charges. With the South Carolina Highway Patrol in hot pursuit, the stolen vehicle ahead is traveling at over 100 miles an hour when the driver suddenly loses control.
There he goes.
Guns drawn, the police pull the shaken driver from the wreckage. Some drivers never learn the rules. Believe it or not, this driver was on his way to court when he was spotted by officers in West London.
Jump back in before the bollards. Of course, that little Fiesta to change course. He's looking for another one. Cheeky problem. On the near side. Yeah. We'll go back and shut him off. Oh, I wish that works with this crap, Alan. Yeah, I think so. We've got front and rears on.
Although he escaped appearing before a magistrate for this offence, he didn't escape a fixed penalty fine.
Right, eastbound, roundabout.
This driver in Durham received a £40 fine and 3 penalty points for his trip through the red lights. In Denmark, a 60-mile-an-hour, 300-yard wheelie through a set of traffic lights cost this motorcyclist his licence. And for putting the lives of all his passengers at risk for not stopping at the level crossing, the bus driver was fined, lost his public service vehicle licence and his job. Overloading is another offence police come down hard on. This DIY enthusiast could do better than read Rule 29, Section A of the Highway Code. Loads must not stick out dangerously. Police carpeted this driver for breaking Rule 29, Section B. Never overload your vehicle. And as this driver's load skims shop fronts and rooftops, he's contravening Rule 29, Section C. All loads carried or towed must be secure. But this driver takes the biscuit by breaking all 3 rules simultaneously. Here the question is not if, but when. Even pedestrians aren't immune to breaking the rules of the highway code. Luckily, the pedestrian wised up and on the second attempt got it absolutely right.
Driving flat out at speeds of up to 130 miles an hour and against the clock requires absolute concentration. Now, rallying is a global sport, and when these guys are competing in Africa, they have to watch out for stray elephants. In Australia, it can be a rogue kangaroo. But in all seriousness, drivers should maintain absolute concentration the whole time and prepare to meet the unexpected, like this police patrol going past a golf course.
Being hit by a stray golf ball would cause many motorists to panic, but this officer took it all in his stride. It's all about being ready to anticipate and respond to hazards. This is especially the case when driving on country roads. Drivers have to be on the lookout for wildlife, which can appear from the undergrowth or be found waddling down the road. It can even be found ambling along a dual carriageway, like these cows in West Mercia.
Yeah, YK, Tango Mike 10, I'm right behind these cattle. I'm doing a walking pace down lane 1. They've got the number 67 and the number 13 tattooed on their buttocks. I don't know who they belong to, you may be able to find out. I'll let you get back to me, because we've got nowhere to put them, basically.
But drivers must always be on the lookout for the odd pedestrian as well. The consequences, had it been a speeding motorist, don't even bear thinking about. Rounding a corner in Holland, the quick reactions of a Dutch officer prevented another potential disaster. After a quick lesson on the highway code, the distinguished old gentleman seems completely untroubled by his near miss as he trundles off.
Rally drivers rely on razor-sharp reactions to put one of these machines through their paces and drive them absolutely at the limit. As well as mechanics and engineers, the backup teams also include physiotherapists and personal trainers to keep the driver's mind and body in tip-top condition. Unfortunately, our next set of clips shows that the 2 deadliest enemies of good driving, drugs and alcohol, not only affect those reaction times, but also judgment. Like this English tourist, drunk on holiday and caught on camera, driving down the wrong carriageway of a busy motorway.
Imagine the horror of other road users as the drunk Brit on the right-hand carriageway drives head-on towards them. Tailed on the other side of the road by the Spanish police, it takes quite some distance before they catch his attention and manage to stop him. He's unceremoniously removed from his car and dispatched to sober up in the cells. This Danish driver had drunk double the legal alcohol limit, which might explain why he was using the wrong side of the dual carriageway. The legs hanging out of this car belonged to another young Dane who, along with some drunken friends, was enjoying a Sunday afternoon drive. The driver was later arrested for dangerous driving. And other Danish officers were intrigued about what was going on in the back of this Fiat. Initially, they thought it was a case of motorized hiccups, but it turned out to be an inexperienced driver stuck in high gear. 100 miles into a pursuit across Los Angeles, and with armed officers in pursuit, this van driver stubbornly refuses to give up. The police fire shotguns at his tires. Immediately the van slows, running only on its wheel rims. But still the driver continues. Unfortunately, his judgment's impaired by smoking cannabis at the wheel. Finally, in a maneuver that police in America call fishtailing, they spin the van into a building. Here, the target isn't the user of drugs, but the supplier. Los Angeles police are in pursuit of a known drug dealer. In order not to be caught with any incriminating evidence, the dealer opens his door and starts discarding the drugs and cash. Unfortunately for him, all his actions are being caught on video to be used as evidence later in court. He then decides to have some fun with the trash cans, sideswiping them with the car door. But with nowhere left to run, he signals he wants to give up. Hands above head, the driver is read his rights. This Polish cyclist is in no condition to read, let alone ride. If he had a copy of the highway code handy, he'd be shocked to discover quite how badly he's doing. Number 1, never ride under the influence of drink. Number 2, never ride without due care and attention. Number 3, do not swerve to avoid obstacles that you imagine are in front of you. And number 4, ensure your brakes are working efficiently and that you know where you're heading.
Normally sitting in this seat next to Colin is co-driver Nicky Grist. His job is to call the route ahead to Colin from his extensive pace notes. And I can tell you, travelling at this speed and in this light, it's incredibly difficult to see anything. But that information's absolutely vital for Colin, because it allows him to anticipate not only the next bend up ahead, but perhaps the next 2 or 3, adjusting the speed and the position of the car. Now, when you and I are out driving on an ordinary road, we don't have the luxury of a co-driver or a clear road up ahead. So we have to adopt what's known as defensive driving techniques. And that basically means anticipating all of the hazards that might be up ahead and then dealing with them efficiently and safely.
Crucial skills that this BMW driver lacks when he aggressively overtakes at a roundabout and accelerates away from a police camera car. Police who have completed the advanced driving course are in a perfect position to judge bad driving and determine the BMW driver is driving offensively rather than defensively. Clocked at over 75 miles an hour in a 40 limit, this driver was disqualified for 12 months and ordered to retake his test. And the officers ordered him in for a few well-chosen words.
Just stand on the pavement, please. Wouldn't want to get hit by a dangerous driver.
This high-speed pursuit clearly illustrates the benefits of advanced driver training, demonstrated by Thames Valley officers.
It's going. Tango Romeo 35. Tango Romeo 35.
Notice the precision and control of the police driver as he maintains a safe distance from the criminal's car.
Red Astra GTI, failing to stop, 3 up, towards the A4. It's going for an overtake, 70 miles an hour, approaching Tidmarsh, through Tidmarsh village. 40 miles an hour.
The police driver's precise commentary not only informs his colleagues of the criminal's exact location, but records each driving offence he commits.
Steady, John, steady. Coming up behind a white marina van, uniform.
Using increasingly sophisticated camera equipment, police forces are able to prosecute dangerous driving more easily and efficiently.
Left-hand bend, no reduction in speed.
When the case comes to court, the criminals will be judged not only on the theft of the vehicle, but also for the numerous counts of dangerous driving.
Side accelerating, 2 pedestrians on the footpath. Accelerating. Approaching oncoming vehicle. Snaking over the road, wrong side of the road, right-hand bend. Series of bend sign. Going right. Roadwork sign ahead. Distance, John, distance. Red traffic lights with the A329 through the red lights. Going left, left, left. Approaching road.
Running the gauntlet with a highly skilled police driver is futile. And finally, the driver of the Astra gives up. He can expect a heavy fine and a long ban.
Indicating to go left, indicating, get ready for a decamp, into the bus lane, go alongside, John. Vehicle stopping.
For Colin, winning the World Rally Championship was the result of years of intensive training.
But even if you don't own a supercar or a 4x4, the skills that we've demonstrated on tonight's programme are relevant to every driver in every sort of car. And advanced driver training does work. Statistics show that people who've done it are 2 and 3 times less likely to be involved in the kind of incidents that are increasingly captured on police video and featured on police camera action.
Motorbiking. Motorbiking.
And finally, a Danish rider who's clearly had one too many as he snakes and swerves his way home. Drinking a bottle of beer, he seems oblivious to the oncoming lorry. So the police pull him, and he was later banned.
Listen to me and I'll tell you no lie. It's too fast to live.
Today's clash between Scotland and Wales. Snooker, Nations Cup, 11:40 later tonight.